Hey there everyone, Hanyou here, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 1, Onikakushi, and I hate being right. I said that at the end of the last episode, but there are definitely times, this being one of those times, where I hate being right. And now, if you remember what he said near the end, let me see if it's in the log, which it should be. The irony of this thought right here. I doubt even his close friends would be able to recognize who he was from this expressionless picture that looked like it was taken at the DMV. You didn't even recognize it was Tomitake-san despite the fact you just saw him last night. And guess what? Now he's dead and... Carrying on from last time, it was an expressionless, half-asleep face. Then do you know this woman? Even before seeing it, I had a good idea of who it was. I don't remember her name, but she was some lady who was with Tomitake-san last night. I don't know what her name was, but I did know she was a resident of Hinamizawa. When was the last time you saw these two? The night of the Watanagashi, we spoke. They seemed pretty close, I guess. Did anything bother you about them? Anything is fine. Go ahead and say it. Being asked for every little detail is very troubling, honestly. I had a pretty good idea of who this guy was by now. Did something happen to them? There was no response to my inquiry. Thus, I replied to that silence in kind. I was pretty sure, no certain, that this guy was a cop. Then why? Why was he asking about Tomitake-san? Are you really asking yourself that right now? Or think about the pictures he's showing you. They're obviously morgue pictures, based off the sound of it. Did something happen to him? You know, you're smart about not getting into the car with strangers, and yet either you're in denial right now, one of the stages of grief, or you're not as bright as I thought you were. Think about it. Did something happen to him? More importantly, why me? Shouldn't there have been plenty of other people who knew more about him than I did? The roar of the air conditioner felt unbearably loud. After a long pause, he finally spoke again. You've moved here just recently, isn't that right, Mibara-san? Are you aware, I wonder, about the stories of Oyashiro-sama? My heart began to race. I'm pretty terrible at hiding things. It probably showed on my face. Not at all? If you don't, then that's fine. Well, I have heard of it. Tomitake-san told me, actually. How much do you know about it? The dismemberment killing, the accidental death, the death by illness followed by suicide, and the lady who was beaten to death. The incidents that always happen the day of the Watanagashi, ending in suspicious deaths. I didn't think Tomitake-san would have kept anything from me. I think that was everything. No, rather, I didn't want to think there was anything more than that. Do you know of that, well, curse, Mibara-san? Feel free to speak openly about it. I don't believe in it. My answer was instant. It wasn't so much that I didn't believe in it as I was on the verge of believing. I wanted to clear away my own doubts. That was the more prominent feeling. Really? Then that's great. Guess you really are one of those city-raised boys. So what if I don't believe? I have friends waiting, so could you get to the point? The man in this picture is dead. And there it is. My mind went blank. Huh? What happened to Tomitake-san? It would seem that he died last night. That was the night of the Watanagashi. Do you understand the implications behind that, Meibara-san? Implications. Not any for the cause of his death or the reasons behind it. The real problem was that he died on the day of the Watanagashi. Meaning, this year, the curse of Oyashiro-sama had once again. The death of Jiro Tomitake is still confidential. You can understand why that is, right? I don't want to understand why. Please tell me. Tell me what happened. It was rather peculiar. It might be a little too graphic for someone born and raised in Hinamazawa. It was a roundabout way of saying that it caused me to doubt whether or not I wanted to hear the rest. I would only regret forcing myself to learn of something I shouldn't, or at least that's how I figured I would feel if I listened to the rest. One of our patrol cars discovered the body on the way back from security detail at the festival. It was late, around about 5 till midnight. The location was, you know where the railroad into town becomes paved, right? You know where the road into town becomes paved, right? Not railroad. Why would a railroad be paved? Down past the slope, on the shoulder around there. There were few street lights on that road. Its pitch black darkness was only broken by the lights of passing cars and the moon. It was a stroke of luck that Tomitake-san was spotted collapsed on the shoulder of the road. Tomitake-san was face down, covered in blood. Blood and muck covered in asphalt. We thought it was a hit and run at first. But when the officer checked to see if he was still alive, he quickly noticed something abnormal. His throat had been ripped open. Well, damn. From a knife or something? No. Nails. Ooh. Then how would he not notice that from the picture that was shown to him, unless the picture was a dead-on mugshot from like the chin up? There's no way he wouldn't have noticed his throat being ripped out in the picture that was shown to him. But anyway, that's disturbing. Nails, as in fingernails. With those he clawed through. From the coroner's report, it was revealed that it was with his own nails. Huh? What does that mean? Basically, it means it wasn't a murder. It was a suicide. What the fuck, man? So, if you remember at the beginning of the last episode, I said, I have a feeling things are gonna get grimdark real quick. That's another thing I was right about. And the bad feeling that I had, I was right about as well. So not only was the bad feeling I had correct in the fact that Tomitake-san died, but the feeling that things were gonna get grimdark real quick also came true. That's fucking disturbing, man. Ripping your own throat out with your own bare hands. Damn. Double damn. Ugh. It was suicide. Tomitake-san thought that there was a reason to tear open his own throat as hard as he could with his own nails. tore through the skin until he started to bleed, and even then Tomitake-san didn't stop. He continued clawing with enough intensity that it would have peeled off his nails, still clawing. Ugh. Yeah, this got real dark and real disturbed real quick. A lot faster than I figured it would. I figured it was gonna get grimdark after hearing about the curse, but yeah, it hit the fucking ground running, I'll say. I'm getting in my quota for curses in this episode, so yeah. Still clawing. Then, as his nails reached those vital arteries that you should never damage, he continued clawing. Blood splattered on the ground around him. As he bled, while gasping for breath, he collapsed, his body spasmed, and he died in agony. That's a hell of a way to go, too. Bleeding out, probably drowning on your own blood in the process if he punctured the trachea as well. Oh, damn. There's a lot of stuff that goes through the neck. You have the spinal cord, the carotid artery, the trachea, and the esophagus. God damn. We thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. But it was a suicide? I've never heard of such a thing. This unnatural way of dying. If this wasn't a mysterious death, then what was? The way he died, in these 5 years, his death most resembled that of a curse. As if to show both myself and Tomitake-san, who proclaimed there was no such thing as a curse, that we were wrong. There were a few more suspicious details. From his body chemistry, perspiration, epilation, and so on, we concluded that he was in a state of hysteria before his death. That was a given. It's hard to believe someone could be in a sound state of mind while clawing out their throat. Wounds on his hands matched a discarded piece of lumber found nearby. What? What? Okay, before I can carry on, I have a prediction of what's going to be said. The girl he was with, wounds on his hands matched lumber found nearby. He bludgeoned the woman he was with to death and then proceeded to claw out his own throat. Let's see if I'm right. There are traces of where he struck trees and guardrails with it. Okay. Tomitake-san's blood was found all over the place, meaning that while tearing at his own throat, he was swinging around a piece of lumber. There were external injuries that were not self-inflicted discovered on Tomitake-san. There is a high probability Tomitake-san was assaulted. The external injuries suggest that there may be multiple suspects. To summarize, Tomitake-san was surrounded and attacked. While wandering the night roads in a state of panic after being cornered, he picked up a piece of lumber and tried fighting back. Somewhere in there, he began madly tearing at his own throat, clawing at it. Then he died. The presumed time of death was around 9:23 p.m., meaning it occurred right after you finished talking to Tomatake-san at the festival. Everyone signed Tomatake-san's shirt, then parted ways. Right after that, oh yeah, he should have been with the woman. What about her? She's missing. She hasn't shown... Okay, I guess I was wrong about that. Watch, it turns out I was probably right about that in the end, but we'll see. They're gonna find her body and find out that she was bludgeoned to death, right? Because what if she was attacking him in self-defense as he lost his mind? That's my way of thinking right now. But that negates the running thesis that he was attacked by multiple people. So, I don't know. She hasn't shown up to work, and she hasn't returned home either. There is a very high probability that she was involved in this incident. For a while, I could only gaze off into space. I never would have thought that something unfortunate happening to somebody close to me could affect me this deeply. The time I had spent with Tomatake-san was short, but we went to the same festival, spent time together, and took part in the same competition. He was one of us. We have been continuing the investigation on various fronts, but when it comes to Oyashiro-sama's curse, the villagers here aren't very cooperative. That I knew well. I would have been none the wiser if not for Tomatake-san, the outsider, telling me. So that's what you've come to me? So that's why you've come to me? You came to me? Because I'm not originally from Hinamizawa? I should have been angry that the reason he wanted to hear what happened from me. If things go the way they have been, then the conclusion would be that Jiro Tomatake died from Oyashiro-sama's curse. He turned away from me and gazed off into the distance. The night of the Watanagashi, during that sacred ritual, he callously snapped off photos, angering Oyashiro-sama. That's how it's going to turn out. But hasn't he been doing the same thing for multiple years on end? So, what would make Oyashiro-sama mad at him specifically this year? That logic doesn't really make much sense. Because if he comes here annually, you would think that if this really was Oyashiro-sama's curse, he would have killed him off long ago for doing that, instead of waiting for an annual occurrence to do it. But, you know, I mean, whatever. And from the sound of it sounds like Tomatake-san was coming before the event that triggered this yearly occurrence, too. Before the murder at the dam. So I'm very curious about this. And very disturbed, mind you. Very, very disturbed. But my intrigue is overcoming my disturbedness over this. So I'm very curious right now. If I was ever in a situation like this, I'd be one of the first people to die, because I'd be more curious than afraid. That would definitely be my downfall in situations like this. My curiosity would overcome my fear, and I'd be like, I need to investigate this. I want to know more. I want to find out what's going on. I want to know the story behind the story. And that would be my downfall. I kid you not. My thirst for knowledge would get me killed in this situation. Definitely. Because while I was deeply disturbed by what I was reading and stuff like that, now I'm like, I need to know more. I need to know why this happened. I need to know how this happened. And yeah, so I'd be out there investigating. I'd probably get paranoid a bit, but at the same time, I'd be like, I need to know more. But you know what? A bit of minor paranoia would be good, because it might keep me on my toes and keep me from becoming the next victim, you know? Too much paranoia is a bad thing, though, so you'd have to be careful about that. There's no way Oyashiro-sama would inflict divine punishment on Tomatake-san. Tomatake-san had to have been killed by humans, and a cowardly group no less. There's no way I'm going to let this end up being the fault of some curse. I think so as well. There's no such thing as divine punishment or curses. The tense mood was cut with the man's hearty laugh. That's how this must be, Maebara-san. Cooperation from individuals in Hinamizawa who don't believe in the curse is indispensable. Understand? Neither Tomatake-san nor I believed in curses. But with the way things were going, it would just end up with Tomatake-san's death marking the 5th year. Which would mean that Hinamizawa had rejected Tomatake-san. That was something I couldn't allow. Tomatake-san was one of us. He didn't live in Hinamizawa, but he came every single year. In a sense, he was more of a resident than I was. There was no way that Tomatake-san could have been cursed by Oyashiro-sama. But there is nothing I can do to help. I have no idea what happened that night either. No, if you see or hear something that draws your attention, then that is enough. If I see or hear, was he talking in the future tense? Things or people or rumors, anything is fine. I don't care if they're unfounded. Here, this is my number. If I'm not there, just leave a message and with whoever picks up. He handed me a piece of paper with his number on it, but I hesitated for a second. If I took it, then whether I wanted to or not, I'd be mired knee-deep in this matter. Please help me solve these questions surrounding Tomatake-san's unfortunate death. That's right. Why was I hesitating? I needed to find the murderer who killed my friend. I snatched up the piece of paper as a satisfied grin spread across his face. Everything we spoke of today is a secret. Please keep this confidential. Understood. From your friends as well. Especially from Sonozaki-san and Furude-san. Please do not inform them. Sonozaki? You mean Mion? Why? Are you saying they have something to do with the incident? With my friends' names brought up so abruptly, and being told to keep it a secret from them, I became rather angry. This is what they call investigative privilege, I suppose. Don't play games with me. Mion is a close friend of mine. I snapped at him, but he didn't seem to especially be offended. I wouldn't mind telling you, but it may just upset you. Say it. He hesitated a little. Turning his gaze to the outside of the car, he began to speak after thinking for a bit. There is a possibility that the string of incidents happening here in Hinamizawa are a result of a village conspiracy. There's no way that could be right. Give me a break. First of all, is there any proof of that? No evidence. Also, each of the cases were resolved and none of the perpetrators had any direct connection to the village. Then how did you come to that conclusion? Every year, the enemies of the village die on the day of the Watanagashi. Don't you think that's enough reason to suspect something? He poses a very valid argument. Like, very valid, and it's very hard to argue against that argument. Only the residents of Hinamizawa felt that the day of the Watanagashi was sacred. So basically, because incidents happened on that day, it was somehow related to Hinamizawa. First it was the dam construction foreman, then it was the villager that supported it, then it was the village... Those the village hold a grudge against die one after the other from mysterious causes. What about the Shinto priest then, huh? And his wife? The means are different, but in the end the result is the same. Unfounded, unreasonable suspicion. But it couldn't just be shrugged off. So the victims after that, what about the Shinto priest and his wife's death? They weren't enemies of the village. The villagers had expected leadership from the Shinto priest at the time of the dam dispute, but he wasn't proactive, so there was a faction of villagers who harbored ill will towards him as a result. Ill will? It's not like he did anything bad to the village. What about the housewife after that? Did she die just because she was the wife of the brother of a supporter? That's such a trivial reason to kill someone. I've heard of people killing for less, though, to be fair. And what about Tomotake-san? He's not affiliated with the damn project at all. Was he killed just because he was an outsider? In the beginning, it fell on those related to the dam project, but as years went on, the enemy threshold of the victims had become much lower. Well, that's the scary part. The bar keeps getting lower. What's scary about that? It means it's not just enemies of the village anymore, just being an outsider is reason enough. Then, next year's victim, they're going to just be picked out of the village outsider pool? It might be a person that just moved here. What do you mean by... I swallowed my words. Here in Hinamazawa, the ones who would be considered the most outside would be my family. I was proof enough of that, wasn't I? I still couldn't really remember the names of the people I passed by. Then the next victims, my family, was he saying it was going to be me? But what does that have to do with Mion? I can't go into details, but the Sonozaki family led the dam protests, quite fervently so. This is also true of Mion Sonozaki-san herself. She has quite a few misdemeanor and obstruction of public worker offenses on her record because of the protests. I knew Mion knew what it meant to fight. This was the first I'd heard of her family leading the protests, though. Then, well, what did it all mean? Are you saying that Mion's family is involved with this string of incidents? I wouldn't go that far. I'm just saying that if it was a conspiracy, then they'd have the highest probability of being behind it. Not a very clear explanation. It felt like he'd magnificently avoided the details I really wanted to know. We don't know who or how involved anyone is right now. That is exactly why I don't want you to say anything to the villagers. Instead of answering, I gave a very bitter expression. It seemed that he understood it well enough. Then think of it like this. I don't want to worry the villagers who blindly believe it's a curse. It's the curse. How about that? What do you mean, how about that? How should I know? But the reasoning behind wanting me to not carelessly open my mouth about it wasn't too hard to comprehend. The perpetrator was here. It had nothing to do with a curse. He was definitely going to be caught by the police and made to pay for his crimes. And none of the villagers would have anything to do with that process. It may cause those sensitive about the curse to just needlessly worry. Just like everyone kept it from me, so I wouldn't worry about it. Is it now my turn to keep it from them so they didn't have to worry? I was just talking to myself. Unlike me, everyone else had been worrying over these mysterious incidents yearly. And the incident this time probably means a lot more to them. I didn't want to burden them anymore. In the end, everything went as the man had wanted, and everything went as the man had wanted, as insipid as it was, but it couldn't be helped. I understand, I'll keep it to myself. Is that fine, Mr. Oishi? I'm guessing that's how that's pronounced. Is that oo or oi? Uishi? Oishi? It's uishi, because oi-ishi would mean there would be another I there, wouldn't it? Oi-ishi? Yeah. Uishi. From the Okinomiya police station. Okinomiya police station. You can call me Kura-chan if you want. Ah, no. Uishi-san is fine. The way he said it was unpleasant, yet retained hints of politeness. He was a spitting image of a vulgar police officer, though I've never seen one this bulky before in the cop shows I watch. You must not watch a lot of American cop shows, then. That being said, we're going to end this episode here. I'm gonna say it again, just so I can get my quote in. I fucking hate being right sometimes. Especially when it's a character that they build up like they did. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving it a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more content in the future. And until next time, everybody, have a good one. I'll see you later. Bye.